Everyone, we're going to continue in some of the laws that we have with regards to Tisha B'Av. Some of them we're going to run through quickly, just as a quick overview. Then we'll try to focus on some of the laws that are associated specifically with Tisha B'Av itself, more in depth. So the first thing to note is that the restrictions that we have on Tisha B'Av is similar to that on Yom Kippur. So those restrictions, again, for many of you, this is just a basic review. Eating and drinking, so it's similar to that of Yom Kippur, although obviously it's rabbinic in nature, but eating and drinking is based on the fact that we, in a state of Inui, the state of mourning. The difference between Yom Kippur and Tisha B'Av is Yom Kippur is a time when we're trying to get close to Hashem, trying to get close to God through holiness. We're refraining in order to get through holiness, and Tisha B'Av is a form of mourning, which that itself is a way that a person can actually get close to God. A person, through their depths of sadness and sorrow, they can actually connect themselves and their souls close to God. So one of the restrictions that we have is that of eating and drinking. So what that means is, it's not like one of the, what we call the minor fast. The reason why they're called minor fast is because they start in the daytime and end at night. Tisha B'Av starts at night and ends at night. So it's a very stringent fast, not just by the fact that it's 25 hours long, but it's also stringent in the fact that there are a few leniencies that most people will actually have to fast on Tisha B'Av. There are a few people that will be exempt, but most healthy people will have to fast, and it's not going to be scenarios like other fasts where there perhaps are leniencies. So, number one, it's forbidden to fast if it's going to put one's life at risk. As a general, even those who are ill, weak, or nursing or pregnant, they fast, but they should consult the rabbi. Women who are within 30 days after childbirth do not need to fast on Tisha B'Av. If one wants, they can take those pills. They have Kalei Tzom pills. They have pills that are caffeinated pills in order to help a person get through the fast. You usually take those prior to the fast, or you take them on the fast, generally without water. That's the line. Okay, that wasn't recorded. So even if a person is not fasting, if they're not fasting, then they have to wash their Netilas Yadayim. If they're eating bread, they have to say proper brachos, and they would also have to bench. Okay, remember, Tisha B'Av is still considered a moed, it's still considered a holiday, to the extent that we're not going to say mincha usually the day before, because of the fact that it's considered a holiday. Bathing and washing, this is one which is very important. So it's one thing to say, okay, I'm not eating. It's another thing now when it comes to bathing and washing. Can I wash any parts of my body? Yesterday we discussed the idea of washing our hands up to our knuckles for Netilas Yadayim, but there are other aspects. If a person is dirty, so you can wash that part of their body. After one's hands are dried, even though they're somewhat moist, you can rub your eyes with those. Here it's any glutinous discharge may be washed away with water. So that's a general concept. You're washing. That's basically the only time you're really washing. If there's dirt or you need it for Netilas Yadayim in the morning, generally we say the same idea is true when it comes to taking, if you want to cool yourself down. Baruch Hashem, we have a lot of air conditioning around us, but a lot of times people would not have that. They'd have stuff in the refrigerator. Either they open the refrigerator in order to cool themselves down, or they would take a cold glass that had moisture on it and put that against their faces or against their hands. So if there's moisture, we don't do it. If there's a totally dry glass that's cold, so then there's permissibility. Once you're dealing with moisture, that's actually considered washing. So that's something we avoid on Tisha B'Av. Again, even though Tisha B'Av is pushed off this year, all those restrictions are in effect. Leather footwear, we don't wear leather footwear on Tisha B'Av. Always the question, people had the non-leather footwear, but they had like a Nike swoosh. Does that Nike swoosh count as leather? Not really. You know, if you just had a design, it didn't mean that the swoosh was actually giving you any element of comfort. So basically, you had non-leather footwear. What if you had footwear that looks like leather? Can you wear it? What's the answer? No. Yes. We have 1 no and 17 yeses. Generally, the answer would be yes. It depends on who the person is that's actually wearing it. Would people think that perhaps that person is wearing leather? And then it might be a question of maras ayin over there, that someone may say, oh, wow, the rabbi's wearing leather on Tisha B'Av, I guess it's allowed. So it could be possible that that's a question. I have 2 pairs of slippers. One are really uncomfortable, the other one are really, really uncomfortable. And the ones that are just really uncomfortable, those look like leather. So I usually don't wear those on Tisha B'Av. Yom Kippur, I just wear the really, really uncomfortable ones that I have, because I don't want anyone to say, hey, what's the question over here? Next, anointing. Oils, alcohols, lotions, creams, or perfumes may not be rubbed on any part of the body. For medical purposes, perhaps. It doesn't mean you can put on chapstick on Tisha B'Av or Yom Kippur. We're talking about serious medical conditions that a person has. It is permissible for a person, in this case here they quote deodorant. There are those that will not allow a person to actually put on deodorant. So get the really strong one that you can put on the day before. There are those that would not allow deodorant. Certainly on Yom Kippur, I think they wouldn't allow it either. Marital relations are forbidden on Tisha B'Av. We discussed that already prior to that as well. Additional restrictions we have, the idea of limiting Torah study on Tisha B'Av. We even have it potentially on Erev Tisha B'Av as well. When sleeping during Tisha B'Av, it was the minhag that people have is that their sleep is a little bit less than what it usually is, and therefore one reduces the comfort that they usually have, such as removing a pillow if they usually have two, or sleeping on a mattress that's on the floor as opposed to a box, or sleeping on the floor itself. So if a person's old and can't handle that, obviously that's not applicable, but that was always in camp. We always had those traditions that people, put their mattress on the floor, slept on a sleeping bag, different things that they had. When it comes to Tisha B'Av as well, we don't greet others. It's a form of mourning. This is an area that people don't realize. When a person's in mourning, you don't say, hello, how are you? So the same thing is true on Tisha B'Av. We don't do it for that day, but generally when a person's in mourning for their parents, you don't do it as well. And we nod, and that's something that we do. We don't give gifts on Tisha B'Av, and talis and tefillin are not worn until mincha. So Tisha B'Av has this quasi day of Avelos and rebuilding all at the same time, because the morning we don't put on talis and tefillin, and the afternoon we do. Just want to mention one aspect when it comes to that of eating, and that is a person that is sick. How does he deal with fasting? So there's a concept that once a person has to break their fast because they're sick for whatever reason, so they're allowed to eat at that point. Once they have to break their fast, they're actually allowed to eat. Unlike Yom Kippur, if you have to break your fast, you're not allowed to eat. You're allowed to eat less than what you usually do. Tisha B'Av is not like that. Once a person is required to eat, for whatever medical reason they're required to eat, they can go ahead and eat. However, generally, there's limited scenarios where that happens. However, if a person is afraid that they are going to have to break their fast because they're going to get very sick, so that's when we'll tell them, eat in small amounts. What does it mean, eat in small amounts? Similar to Yom Kippur, we say drink less than an ounce of water over a 9-minute period. So every 9 minutes you're drinking an ounce of water. So whatever that means, after a few hours, you've consumed plenty, but you haven't actually broken your fast. Similarly, when it comes to food, they suggest, some say it's a shot glass worth of food that you would eat also over that period. Technically, that's more with eating than it is with drinking, but that's the general idea. So you can limit the way you break your fast to prevent you from actually breaking your fast on Tisha B'Av itself. If a person he gives an example in Shmuel Kamenetsky, say if a person has strep, and he had to take pills for that strep, and now he doesn't feel sick, but he still has to fast, but when he takes his pill, he's allowed to take it with a little bit of water that's less than that amount, because you don't want to kill the system that you're taking with your antibiotics, so you should take the pill. If you can take it without liquid, great. If not, then you should take it with a little bit of liquid, but you still are required to fast.
If you're eating less than 1 ounce of food, do you have to make Havdalah first this year?
Do you have to make Havdalah first? It would seem that since you'd have to make a bracha rishona, you might actually have to make Havdalah first.
Havdalah would be more than an ounce.
Havdalah to drink it would be more than an ounce. You saying? It's a good question. So we have to look up Havdalah, how much you should drink, or have a katan to actually drink the Havdalah wine, because a katan would not be required to actually drink. So that would be a good question to look up.
You said before about nodding. If someone doesn't know the left hand says hello to you, can you say hello back?
Yeah, we're normal people, so we just respond and go hi, or we know, we're not gonna, say like, yeah, Tisha B'Av, fool, right? We're not gonna do that. We want to make sure that they know. Yeah. Any other questions?
Stop eating this year.
Shkia. We stop eating this year since it's Shabbos. We stop at sunset or prior to sunset because it's Shabbos. That's why we usually have Sudash Shlishit earlier, so we can stop at sunset. Again, as a reminder, Tisha B'Av, although it's a moed, it's not a prohibited melacha in actual work. You can drive, you can write, you can do all of these things. Of course, what do you mean? Tisha B'Av is when you have movies all day. So that's when we have movies here at Shul. But it also means that once Shabbos ends, you want to be able to say Baruch HaMavdi Ben Kodesh L'Chol, because when you say that, then you're now permitted to actually do Malacha. Havdalah is only going to be recited Sunday night, so keep that in mind. But yes, if a person does have to eat, they are going to have to recite Havdalah first. We'll have to figure out who's going to drink from that wine in order to enable that person to eat for the rest of Havdalah. Rabbi Nachi Klein,